Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the premier radio networks, including 160 of the best stations in the U.S. and XM channel 166 on New Year's Day 2012. This is episode 836. Enjoy. Well, hello. How are you today? Happy New Year 2012. I'm sorry. I'll say that a little quieter. Happy New Year. 2012 is here, and it's time to talk tech. Leo Laporte. I am the tech guy. Another year of high tech. Wow, what a year 2011 was. And 2012, I'm sure, will be even more interesting. We'll talk about that today. Answer your questions. Take your calls. Hear from you at 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number, 888 toll free 888-827-5536. Because it's toll free, if you're outside the U.S., you can, yes, call via Skype or some other solution like that, some VoIP tool, Gizmo, Skype, Uvu, and it'll be toll free. 8888 Ask Leo. The chat room is alive and well. A little quiet in there. I think a few of our regulars are probably still asleep. It was a late night. Only about 566 people in there. That's down about 300. But if you want to join us, it's a great time to do that. A little quieter than usual. Just stop by techguylabs.com. That's the website. And there's a link right there to chat. Also to all of the previous 835 shows. This is show 836. Wow. Our first show, 2012. Actually, it's also, I guess, the closest thing we're going to get to the 8th anniversary of this show. First show was January 4, 2004. I had to do the math. 2004. First Tech Guy show on KFI, our mothership in Los Angeles. We syndicated about 3 years later, so we're, I guess, in our 5th year of syndication now. So, hello. Happy New Year. I'm talking quietly. Don't want to hurt anybody's head. Talked yesterday a little bit about the year that was, and what a year it was. A rough economy worldwide, and yet technology seemed to be booming, partly because of the growth of some new sectors. The tablet sector with the iPad, and then all the folks coming along trying to compete with it and failing, like the RIM BlackBerry Playbook, HP Touchpad, all of those Android tablets, the Samsung Galaxy Tab, which I liked a lot. In fact, the only tablet that did well at all last year besides the iPad was the Kindle Fire, which did pretty darn well and established kind of a new benchmark for the low-price tablets. So it's going to be a tablet year. Next week is CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, traditionally where we see what is to come for the next year. January 9th through 13th this year. It's not on a weekend. And normally it's on a weekend, and if it were, I'd be doing the radio show in Vegas, but I'll be in studio this weekend and next weekend and even the weekend after. But we will have some pre-recorded stuff from CES, and when I get back on January 14th, we'll have a lot to say. But I can give you some predictions. I have a feeling, I know, in fact, that we're going to see a lot of tablets from Microsoft, or based on Microsoft's Windows, and a lot of people previewing tablets for Windows 8. Microsoft, oddly, still has not said that Windows 8 will come out in 2012. But there's no way it's not coming out in 2012. It might be later in the year, but I'm convinced that we will see Windows 8 in 2012. And the big story of Windows 8 is that it is tablified. It has a tablet interface. Some questions, though, about, and we know there will be Windows 8 tablets, some of them based on the same kind of ARM processor that's in most smartphones and tablets. And then there's some question about whether that ARM-based Windows 8 will run all the Windows 8 apps or only special tablet apps. And Microsoft just, mum. We don't know. They're obviously, somebody at Microsoft said, this works so well for Apple, we should try this. Not a good idea, but that's, that's their choice. What works for Apple does not necessarily work for the rest of the world, that's for sure. How will Apple do in 2012? What do you think? Without Steve Jobs? I don't think you can replace Steve Jobs. I don't think there's anybody at Apple with anywhere near that kind of vision. Maybe Johnny Ive, Sir Johnny Ive, he was knighted yesterday, the guy designer behind the iPod, the iPhone, and the newest Macs, the Air, and the unibody construction Macs. He's brilliant designer, but I don't know if he has the chops to lead that company into the future. It's going to be a challenge for Apple. They got a lot of momentum, though. A lot big head of steam built up. That locomotive is not stopping anytime soon, any more than IBM or Microsoft are stopping, or Google even. Google's 13 years old now. That's old in the tech world. I think we're seeing a streamlined Google. It's very interesting. Larry Page took over last year from Eric Schmidt, who'd run the company for 11 of those 13 years. Larry Page was one of the founders. It's rare to see a founder come back and run a company after handing it over to adult supervision. In fact, the only other case I could think of is, Steve Jobs, Larry Page's mentor. Larry immediately cut Google back big time, canceled over a dozen Google projects, started to focus the company just as Steve Jobs did when he came back to Apple. And I think a streamlined Google is going to be a power in 2012. Their social efforts with Google Plus will continue to build momentum. Facebook got to 800 million users this last year. I don't see them slowing down, but Google Plus, in less than a year, what are they? Nobody knows. Google doesn't say. Maybe 80 million. They're growing really rapidly. Almost as big as Twitter now. Twitter is going to have a challenging year. Speaking of social networks, it's difficult to think of how to make money off Twitter. And everybody seems to be riding the Twitter stream without actually paying any money to Twitter. It's huge, it's big, and more people will use it. It's interesting. This is going to be the year I think we watch very carefully to see what television networks and movie companies and record companies do in the face of the internet. They tried to shut it down in 2011. Will they continue in 2012? They think of it as a piracy vehicle. Yeah, they'll continue to try. But I think they'll also, as younger people come in, see the value of things like Twitter, social media. Somebody, I think the television industry is starting to realize that Twitter drives audience. More people are watching live shows like the Super Bowl and the Academy Awards than ever before, and it's because of Twitter, because all the buzz on Twitter drives people to the television. So we'll see more of that. You don't see a television ad anymore for a show without a Twitter hashtag. That's where you have that little number sign. Is that? I wonder what people who aren't, tech savvy like you think when they see that on those ads. Pound 2.5 men. What is that? What is that pound doing there? That number sign. What does that mean? What is that all about? Well, it's a Twitter hashtag. It's so that when people tweet about the show, and they hope you will, you'll use that hashtag so that it can be searched for and people will know what's everybody. And maybe if you're lucky and enough people tweet about it, you'll get to be a trending topic on the front page of Twitter. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Of course, it's an election year, and the candidates will use social media. Barack Obama rode social media to victory 4 years ago, no question about it, both in fundraising and awareness, and then got into office and turned the spigot off. Said, thank you very much. I'll see you later. 4 years later, he's going to come back. He already has. I'm starting to get text messages. I'm seeing him on Google+, on Twitter, on Facebook, of course. But we'll see if people fall for that the second time around. Every candidate's going to be doing that this time. That's just the way it is now. It's going to be an interesting year. It really is. Let's talk about it. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think 2012 will bring us? 8888 Ask Leo. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Have existed. You might as well not have existed.
That's right. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number if you want to join me and talk tech. I'd love to hear from you. Let's go right to the phones. Charles, our first caller in San Francisco. Hi, Charles.
Hello?
Welcome to the show, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, first of all, I want to say Happy New Year to you, and thank you for all your great work.
Thank you.
You did in 2011, and years before that.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Now that I've done that, I am having a heck
of a time. Thank you. You never know nowadays with the activist FCC what words are allowed. So let's take.
I'm an ex-radio guy, so I'm trying to keep it clean.
Take no chances. Yeah.
Indeed. I've been a user of iTunes on Windows 7, and we all know all the hurt that is implied with that.
Yeah.
But I'm having something that I've never experienced before on iTunes 10.5, which is when I play an album or anything and hit my forward arrow to go to the next selection, the next cut, if you will, it jumps forward maybe 5 cuts, maybe 10, maybe
that's
20.
Not right. That's not good. That's not nice.
No, and I've checked every possible thing I know how to do to correct this, and just wondering if you or the chat room have any thoughts, or should I just reinstall iTunes?
Why would it do that? So you're hitting just there's a triangle with a bar to the right of it, and then there's you're hitting just the next.
Yeah, the arrow that's right next to it. Play.
And it's jumping. Well, shuffle's not turned on, is it?
Pardon me?
Shuffle isn't turned on, is it?
No. But that's a good.
Check the shuffle. If you don't have shuffle on, or something like it, it should just go to the next cut on the list.
Yeah.
Whether it's a playlist or you're listening in your library. That's the only thing I could think of is shuffle. That's what the chat room seems to agree to, Charles. So we'll check.
Okay.
I'll see.
And also, can I use Media Monkey on the same library that iTunes is on?
Well, it's the same songs. Yeah, it won't be the same library file. That'll be a new index. But yeah, you can. Yeah, you could point Media Monkey to that folder.
I can. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, and vice versa, iTunes will do the same thing too. It's a setting in iTunes. It's not maybe non-obvious, but if you uncheck let iTunes organize the music, make a copy of it into my iTunes music folder, you can actually point iTunes to any folder or music anywhere on your hard drive and not have it move it around. Same thing with Media Monkey. Media Monkey is a nice free program. A lot of Windows users prefer to iTunes. There are also there's other programs, quite a few. We collated them a couple of shows ago, and somebody said I hate iTunes on Windows. And Charles, you're not alone. A lot of people do. Love Double Twist as well. I use Double Twist on Windows. 8888 Ask Leo. You're right. Caffeine-free Dave in our chat room is reminding us that every year this time, do you like typefaces? Do you like fonts? My friend Andy Anatko, who writes for the Chicago Sun-Times, he's a host of our Mac Break Weekly show, talks about this every year. He's a big fan of the font. And Comicraft, which is a typeface site for computer typefaces, does every year on New Year's Day, a big sale of typefaces. I don't know, do you collect typefaces? I love their typefaces. They're beautiful. They really do a nice job. So if you're into that kind of thing, well, I notice your site's a little slow right now. There's a lot of people buying. They have comic book fonts there I like a lot. They're really fun if you're doing, photo albums, that kind of thing. It's fun to use a comic book font. I've purchased some of theirs before. So just, thank you for reminding me, Caffeine Free Dave, that this is the 2012 sale at comicraft.com. One C in the middle there, COMICRAFT. Let's go to Cindy in San Diego. You're next. Hi, Cindy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Oh, hi, Leo.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I have a question in regard to a desktop recommendation. I'm thinking I need to buy a new one, and I would just like to hear what your suggestions.
Well, the first question always is the same: Windows or Mac?
Windows.
Windows, yeah. Usually when you say desktop. In fact, the truth is this question really only comes up for Windows users because you don't have many choices in the Mac world. It's iMac or Mac Pro, and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a couple of brand names I like a lot, and a couple I try to stay away from. HP is not my favorite anymore. They are the number1 computer PC manufacturer. But this year, or 2011, they just said, we're going to get out of this business. And they said, well, maybe we'll stay in this business. The whole thing makes me nervous. And I don't think they make very good computers anyway, so stay away from HP. I do like Dell a lot. Dell scares people because, for the full range of Dell products, you have to buy online. There are some Dell computers at the big box stores and so forth, but I think it's best to buy online. But I think they are very reliable. And if you look in my office, my business, where I'm putting my money where my mouth is, all the people who use Windows use Dells. I buy Dells for them.
Okay, and what are the specifications I should be looking for?
What do you do with your computer, Cindy?
It's at home, and I do use very light office kind of things, but...
so you're not super demanding, huh?
No, it's not.
I would say that right now the most of these computers, and certainly all the Dells, will be running Intel chips. Intel makes 3 levels: the i3, the i5, and the i7. The i3 is the budget chip, probably be enough for you. But if the i5 is not much more expensive, get an i5. Don't worry about an i7. That's for people, hardcore users, who are very serious about what they're doing. You want 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's plenty.
Okay.
If you don't have a lot of old hardware and software, Windows 7 64-bit is the standard that you'll get. But if you have older hardware and software, some people report compatibility problems with a 64-bit version of Windows 7. You can ask them for the 32-bit. But I would say, unless you know you're going to have problems, stay with Windows 7 64. That's the future.
Okay, stay with that.
Yeah, and then hard drive-wise, you'll get, no matter what you do, you'll probably get a terabyte drive. That's certainly plenty for most people.
Yes.
The big thing that people don't pay much attention to, the thing I would say spend money on over all else, is a big screen. Get a 24-inch or bigger.
Okay.
Dell makes those very affordable, and every study I've seen says the bigger the screen, the more productive you are.
Okay. It's a good thought.
Yeah, and I know you're not doing much, but having a big screen means, for instance, you could have your email open and a browser on the same screen. Things like that. It's convenient. It also means that if you end up, and more and more people are doing this, watching video and programming on your computer, it looks better on that big screen, that wide screen, 16:9 screen.
Okay. And I know I'm probably going to need to buy a new router, too. Do you know? Is there anything I should...
When you do the checkout at Dell, I don't really like it that they do this, but it's a good way of making money. They'll sell you all that stuff, and they'll sell you, I think, a Linksys router. Those are fine. Get an 802.11n, and I'll tell you how to configure it right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Ah, yes. In 3D smell-o-vision. It's episode 1. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson is here, a home theater expert. And Scott, welcome. Happy New Year, and thank you ever so for filling in on Christmas Eve for me. I really appreciate that.
It was wonderful, Leo. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And we had a wonderful time. Kyle and I came up with all sorts of great music.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I wore my
great
Santa hat for those who were watching the video.
Awesome. Well, you look like Santa.
I do have a Santa aspect. I will admit that, yes.
So, well, I was talking yesterday. I know you heard it on the show, and and we were talking off the air, and I'll mention it again. I went to see Hugo.
Which I recommended.
Yeah, and good movie. Although, hard for me to assess, only because this 3D thing is just so distracting.
You were so distracted, and I'm really sorry to hear that, because the movie itself is really wonderful. It's a great homage to early filmmaking.
Yes, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the story. I thought the acting was very good. The kid was good. You were right. Sacha Baron Cohen was fantastic as the inspector of the train station. And yeah, no, it was a well done movie, and I'll look forward to watching it at home on a nice screen.
Yes,
in 2D
on Blu-ray.
I don't understand why people go see 3D. It's dark. I mean, you can't deny that. It's dark.
It's true, which is why I always go, when I go to see 3D, if I possibly can, I go to IMAX.
Yeah, we have Real D. We have Real D at our theater, and,
right.
and that's half the luminance.
Yes, that's correct. IMAX is better because they use actually two separate projectors.
So it's normal brightness.
So it's normal brightness, because when you cut it in half, then you get back to normal brightness.
And
right.
I have to wear these crappy glasses on top of my regular glasses, so I'm a dork.
Yeah, but as you said yesterday, it's dark and no one can see
So
you.
I'm a dork in the dark, still dorky. And I find the glasses distracting. I find the view distracting. The glasses always have smudges. I don't know if they're so cheap, I guess they can't keep them clean. And so you don't have a clear view ever.
Well, it's true. Now, those of us who enjoy 3D...
Bring your own.
Bring your own.
Oh, please.
Really, there are companies that make them, and I have some. And I bring my own, and I...
The day I go out and buy prescription 3D glasses, just...
Well, mine aren't prescription.
So you still have to do the door. What do you have, flip downs?
They do make them, and I do have them. Yes, exactly right. And it's
Clip-ons.
super dorky. I agree. It's super dorky.
Well, it's your
looking.
profession, I guess. Scott Wilkinson is the online editor of Home Theater Magazine, reviews home theater for us every week on the show, and you can find him at hometheater.com. He also does a great podcast in which you talk about, in fact, the most recent one, you had the guy from DreamWorks who does 3D for DreamWorks.
Actually, he was a guest on the show Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Oh, he's on this show.
On the radio show, yeah.
Oh, how
exactly
exciting.
Right. Phil.
So when I'm not here, you get on and you promote 3D. Is that what happens?
No. It's not what happens. It just so happens, I like to try and get an interesting guest on when I'm subbing for you. And this guy was available on Christmas Eve. And, he's the primary stereographer at DreamWorks Animation, a studio owned or at least run by Jeffrey Katzenberg, who has said publicly that all the movies they make from this point forward will be in 3D. So clearly there is enough interest in it.
For animation, that's not so bad, maybe.
Correct. And I asked him about this. I asked him, I said, why is animation so much more amenable to 3D than live action? And he said, well, for one thing, with animation, you can get things perfect and you can take as much time as you need, whereas with live action, you basically got to get the shot right the first time or the first few times because you've got live actors.
Right.
The animated actors are not going to demand benefits and overtime and all that kind of stuff. So
You mean that not only do we have to put up with this stupid effect, wear these stupid glasses, it doesn't add to the story, it takes you out of the story. The whole point of a film is to be immersive. 3D, to me, is the opposite of immersive. But even then, it makes it harder on the actors, too?
No, it doesn't make it harder on the actors.
Oh, okay.
It makes it harder on the filmmakers.
Oh, well, I don't care about them. They're the ones who chose 3D. Let them suffer. All right, I know I'm sounding like an old man, and everybody loves 3D, so it just baffles me. It baffles me.
You're not alone. There are a lot of people who just don't like 3D, and I've always found this interesting that the two major trends one we are seeing now, 3D, and the other which we will see this year, 4K.
That one I'm excited about, by the way.
Exactly. Well, but there's a problem with that one too. But my point that I was going to make was that there are a lot of people who don't like 3D, who simply don't like it. And to them I say, fine, I have no problem with that. Go see the 2D version. Wait for the Blu-ray. Unfortunately for you, you live in a small enough town where
there was no choice, yeah.
The only way they were showing it was in 3D. Yeah. I'd much rather have people be given a choice. And if they don't like 3D, or one caller on Christmas Eve called in and said, I've got a real problem in one eye. I can't really see 3D. because I'm
well, yeah. If you have monovision, as I do as well, I use one eye at a time. You don't, but I can make it 3D. I can relax my eyes and I see the 3D.
Right.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not seeing the spectacular 3D effect. Although from I don't understand why I want to see things don't come at me in real life. I don't understand why I'd want to go to a theater. In fact, one of the funny things that they do in the movie Hugo Cabret, which is in some ways Martin Scorsese's ode to the early days of filmmaking, is they talk about the very first movie, which was shown in the 1880s, I think.
Oh, that was a great scene.
And it was a great scene. It was a train coming into the station, and it's true. They tell the story in the movie, and I'd heard it before, that people had never seen a movie before. It was so realistic. Even though it was a black and white, grainy film, and silent film of a train coming to the station, they still screamed when the train came at them.
And they jumped.
And that wasn't 3D.
No, that's true.
Although I imagine when Scorsese did it in Hugo, he did it in 3D. Did he?
No. Well, the audience itself was in 3D.
Yeah, but the train wasn't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
but
that's
also you have to remember that when Thomas Edison first made audio recordings, people claimed they could not hear the difference between the recording and the live singer.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah, we can hear the difference.
We can hear the difference. It's clear, but in
yeah.
Right, exactly. So in a way, it's cultural context.
It is, absolutely.
Nobody had ever seen that before.
Well, and that's kind of my point, which is the brain is the single biggest, the most capable of creating a realistic 3D effect. And so trying to do this kind of cruddy 3D optical effect using bad glasses, bad techniques to do a pseudo 3D effect is just dumb. Let the brain do the work because it does a better job.
Well, you're not alone.
And that's why 4K to me is exciting, because it's merely giving the brain more information. It's not trying to trick it.
Right. The only problem with 4K, at least for now, is that there's no content. And
I'm going to stop because a guy in the chat room says, I'm so tired of hearing Leo hatred for 3D. I'm so tired of that. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about what's to come, because we're going to CES next week.
I'm very excited. If you're going to be there, we'll do our Home Theater Geeks show from CES. We won't do the radio show from there because it's not over the weekend. But
I know. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
That's all right.
But the most exciting interview that I have lined up for us is to take a look at the LG 55-inch OLED flat panel. Now, you and I have talked about OLED for
This is the biggest OLED ever made. It's the first time they've made a big screen OLED that I know of.
Yep. They use OLED all the time for
phones,
smartphones, and tablets and stuff, small screen stuff.
Hold on, we'll talk some more about CES. It's coming up.
Sure.
And Scott Wilkinson with a preview in just a bit. He's our home theater editor. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm just a cranky old man, that's all. Leo Laporte, the cranky old tech guy. I know I'm cranky. I tried to stay up and watch Rockin' New Year's Eve last night, and all these young people making so much noise.
No.
What's going on?
My wife and I stayed up and watched it. It was great. Dick Clark is still rocking, even though he had a stroke and his voice is pretty distorted. I mean, it was the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, it's good that he was able to do that. I think it's time to retire, but it was good that he was able to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
One last one. Okay, let's talk about CES, the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yep. I mentioned the OLED, the 55-inch OLED.
Now, let me ask you about that. That's just as usual with CES. That's a demo. That doesn't mean we're going to ever be able to, are we going to be able to buy that this year?
This year, I don't know. The demo is actually coming from a subsidiary or an arm of LG called LG Display. Now, LG Electronics is the company that actually sells televisions to consumers. But LG Display is the company that develops the technology. And they actually sell their screens to other companies like Vizio and Toshiba. So what we're going to be seeing at CES is something from LG Display, which means that it's going to be much more of a prototype than an actual product that you're going to be able to buy.
Yeah. But the fact that they can make it, now they don't say how much it costs to make it.
No, they don't. I've heard rumors that such a TV would be like $8,000.
That's not bad. That's actually not horrible. Surprisingly good.
Not.
The first plasmas were $15,000 at that size.
That's right. And the early 42-inch plasmas were like $10,000. So, it's for $8,000. If it really were $8,000, I wouldn't be really unhappy about that. We also know that we've heard tons of rumors, I'm sure you have too, that Apple is planning a TV, and LG Display makes their screens for their iPads and iPhones and stuff like that. So when LG Display announced last year that they were coming out with a large screen OLED, the rumors started flying that, that's what the Apple television, or iTV perhaps, was going to be. Now, Apple doesn't normally show up to CES, so I doubt we're going to see that there, but I'm looking forward to seeing what this 55-inch OLED looks like. I've heard rumors also that Samsung's going to have a large prototype as well. Now, we see prototypes of OLED at CES, and we've seen them for years. Sony was the only one that came out with a product, and it was an 11-inch for $2,500.
Yeah, we saw that last year.
Yeah,
the smaller OLEDs, and they're beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
I mean, is that? I guess we should explain why we would even care. They do. They look good, right?
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
The blacks are really black. The colors are great. It's basically tiny little emissive pixels. They're not like LCD.
It's more like the old-fashioned CRT television.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But each individual pixel can go down to 0. So
what else? I know there's other things at CES.
There are other things at CES.
What else will be there?
Well, LG is also going to do an 84-inch 4K display. We were talking about 4K earlier, and so they're going to do an 84-inch, which is a really big TV. We don't know how much that's going to be either. Sorry to tell you this, but one of the reasons that they're doing that is so that they can do full 1920 by 1080 3D with passive glasses.
Right.
Right. So that is that's going to be the big story on that score. I'm sure we'll see the Sharp Elite TV, which we've seen now already. We've even reviewed it. It's a wonderful looking LED TV. You and I get to interview Alan Parsons.
Of the Alan Parsons Project?
Yep.
No.
Yep.
What?
Yep. He's going to be there with Elliot Shiner, who is a major recording engineer.
Oh, interesting.
And they're going to be in the DTS booth talking about whatever DTS is doing these days.
Well, I can't wait. That'll be fun. I'll tell you what, we'll take that interview and put that on the radio show the following weekend. And anything interesting that happens, we'll do little clips of on the radio show. But the full version will be available for download with the Home Theater Geeks podcast.
Right, and we're going to have 2 full hours to walk on the floor. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Exciting. That's really exciting. I can't wait. Yeah, we're going to have a good time. CES is not next week, not this coming week. It's next week. It's the 9th, actually the 10th, although I get there the 9th, and there's stuff actually starting on Sunday night, the 8th, 9th, 10th.
Right. I'm going to be there Sunday evening, and I've got 2 events Sunday evening that I'm going to have to try and split my time between.
To put this in perspective, the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, it's the last big technology trade show in the U.S. And what it really started as, and I guess still is dealers, people who sell consumer electronics, come to the show to see what the product lines will be for the year, and usually not for the beginning of the year, most often for the end of the year. So you'll see stuff that's not going to be available till September at CES, and you'll also see stuff that will never be available, because many companies come to show prototypes and say, if we made this, would you buy it? Right. So we have to put that in perspective, because sometimes people see things at CES and go, oh, I can't wait. And man, you're going to wait.
You're going to wait. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. There are plenty of those sorts of things that are shown at CES. This OLED, this big screen OLED might be one of those. I think LG and others, Samsung and others, are trying to get OLED going. As a real, honest, to goodness product.
We've seen alternatives to these LCD and plasma technologies like SED before that just didn't take off.
Well, that died because of legal problems.
Yeah, I think there were technical issues as well that made it hard to do. And this is the thing that, when LCDs first came out, it was very hard to make a large panel without a lot of defects. And until the process was improved to the point you couldn't make it economically. And I think we're seeing the same thing. SED, they never really were able to make it economically, regardless of the legal issues.
No, you're right.
OLED may also have that problem, and there's also dye issues and so forth.
Yep. Exactly right. So we'll see. But it's going to be a great show.
Tomorrow you do Home Theater Geeks at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern on TWiT.tv. Yep. Who's your guest?
My guest is my colleague David Vaughn, and he and I are going to be tag teaming questions from the chat room.
Good. That'll be a lot of fun. Scott Wilkinson, catch him, hometheater.com, and back here on the show next week. And the following week, we'll have a lot of CES coverage. Maybe we'll have you in for an hour on that show.
Hey, sounds great.
Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure.
Take care. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This CES is going to be a very interesting show this year, not only for televisions, but for, as I mentioned, Windows 8. We'll see lots of tablets. I think there'll be some interesting smartphone announcements, including we're expecting a Nokia Windows Phone announcement at CES. So that's going to be a very, very exciting time, a very exciting show. I'm looking forward to it. Let's move on. Phone number 8888 Ask Leo. Ian on the line from Concord, California. Hi, Ian. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. I'm happy to talk to you.
Thank you.
Incidentally, I agree with your whole 3D opinion. It doesn't seem like it's not something I look forward to when I go to the theater.
Well, and I do notice that box office receipts on 3D movies are declining pretty rapidly.
Right.
So I don't think we're alone. I know there's plenty of people in the chat room who say, "Oh, I love it," but I just don't. Why would you put up with it? I don't understand. If it doesn't add to the movie, it takes you out of the movie and it lowers the quality. I don't understand the point.
Yeah, it's more of a distraction than anything else.
Yeah, it's distracting.
Yeah, and so I'm not the most advanced power user in the world. I'm kind of a normal guy. I've cut the cord, so to speak. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm slightly modern, but not extremely so. I don't know. It just doesn't seem interesting to me. So I have an iTunes problem.
Okay.
It's a problem of my own device. Here's the deal.
Now, don't say that. I want you to know my motto, it's not your fault.
I like your motto.
It's not your fault. When it comes to technology, if it doesn't work right, it's never your fault. If you can't figure it out, it's not even your fault. They should have made it easier.
Okay, I like your motto.
Yeah.
All right, so I have an iTunes account, which I shared with my husband a couple years ago because, we like a lot of the same music. So
this is of course, everybody does this. Apple is very generous. They allow you to have 5 computers all with the same music. And now with iCloud and iTunes Match, it's a really good deal.
Right, until you then decide to also share it with your nephew. And
and he's buying, let me guess, because my son buys a lot of hip-hop. And all of a sudden, my iTunes is jammed with hip-hop.
That's the problem.
I knew it!
That's exactly what happened.
What does your nephew listen to?
Death metal.
Young people, I tell you.
And the reason I did this is, I shared it with my husband because obviously it's,
he shares your taste, but that's the problem, and this happens in every family where if your tastes aren't the same, you have the problem is. Now, it's not a bad thing because you don't really want to rebuy music, and if but let's talk about how you can solve this problem because there is a solution, Ian. When we come back, I'll also talk about setting up your router. Very important news there. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hello there. It's Leo Laporte, the cranky tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo's the number. Now I'm not hungover. I have no excuse. I'm just old and cranky. 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. That's the number. I'm debating with my chat room. By the way, love having the chat room there. And if you'd like to join them, we'd love to have you. It's kind of like the kids in the back of the class. 777 strong. It's a big class. You can get there by going to techguylabs.com. and clicking the chat link. We're still debating this 3D. There are people in there who just... But here's my question for those of you who bought 3D TVs, and I know millions of you did last year. You know my opinion. I think it was a scam by the television company, the people who make these TVs, because they realized everybody who wanted an HD TV had bought one. Sales were way, way down. So what they needed was a new technology to get you back into the store. So they made something up. Something nobody wants. And so I'm just asking, for those of you who did buy 3D TVs, how much time do you spend watching those 3D TVs? Let me ask you this. How thick is the layer of dust on the glasses under the TV? Can you even find them? Just asking. So we were talking with Ian in Concord, California. He's got a problem a lot of us have. He's got one iTunes account, buys music on it, shares it with his family. Unfortunately, his nephew loves death metal. And, of course, if you, by default, the way iTunes is set up, if you buy a song on any device, your iPhone, your iPad, or your computer, it shows up everywhere. And so you're getting a lot of death metal in your mix, huh?
In addition, there's this, and this is really hilarious. You know, we all have contacts, right?
Yeah.
So with iCloud.
Oh, he's getting your contacts too, huh?
Yeah, I could call Uncle Ian if I wanted to.
Yeah, that happened to my wife. She said, "Who are these people?" I said, "Oh, those are my friends." So here's what you do on that. If you can, and you should, on your nephew's. Does he have a phone, a touch? What does he have?
He has a touch.
Yeah. So on his iPod Touch, the mistake you don't have to log into the same account in every case on the Touch. So when you set up the email or the Exchange account, you use the same account that you're using for iCloud. Don't. In fact, don't you create a new account for him for both iCloud, for syncing, for all of that, so for iTunes he can continue to have your account so that you're sharing the music, if that's what you want to do. But don't have him create a new Apple account. They're free, and have that be the account that is for the syncing and for iCloud and for you haven't talked about PhotoStream. But if you turn on PhotoStream, all his photos will start appearing on your computer, and that you really don't want. And maybe vice versa. I don't know. That's the photo stream. Unfortunately, the way Apple implemented it, it's all or nothing. So every picture you take with now I like it because every picture I take with my iPhone appears on my iPad and my desktop, and then on my iPad I have all these photo editing programs. So I take a picture on my iPhone, within seconds it's on my iPad. I can edit it and post it from the iPad. That's a nice feature. But if you have multiple people using it and that photo stream is going on everybody's computer, I think divorces are on the way. I just think it's going to cause a problem in the long run.
Right.
Let's turn that feature off.
My preference would be to have him have just completely his own iTunes account, and for me to somehow give him his music.
Well, another way to, yes, and you can do that as well. So you can give him all new accounts that are under his name. You can gift music from any account to any account.
And how do I do that?
Well, now, are you saying you want to give him the music that he's purchased?
Yes.
So now you'll probably want to use iTunes Match. That's $25. And get all of the songs matched. The reason you might want to do that is if you bought it before copy protection was removed from iTunes Music, you won't be able to give it to him. But once you've removed the copy protection from those songs, you can just copy it and give them to him.
Okay.
Yeah, now just remember, it'll have your email address in it. So tell him, don't share this online. Don't put it on LimeWire.
All right.
Right? Okay,
I get you. And I do that exactly how? Like, how do I give him?
Put it on a disc, whatever. Oh, I see, because he's on So does he sync up to a computer at any point?
Oh, yeah. It's all on my home computer.
So he has a separate. So he has a separate account on your home computer, just to have those files there and have it sync up to that account.
Yeah. Well, here's another aspect to it, which is my home computer has like an administrator account, and then there's 3 other sub accounts. One for me, one for my husband, one for my nephew.
Yep.
And the 3 of us, we don't see the same music because we've each synced individually.
Right.
We don't see each other's music on iTunes.
On the devices. Right.
Yes.
Right.
We've each synced individually.
That's fine. Then you've solved that. So put that into put it on a DVD or a disc, and then when he logs into his account, have him import those files from the disc into his iTunes account.
Okay. What was the date when iTunes didn't have copy protection?
That's a good question. A couple of years ago. But if it's all recent, then you won't have an issue anyway. If it's not, the nice thing about Match is it takes the DRM, the copy protection, right off of it. So all of those matched iTunes files now can be moved around and given and around and so forth. And I was interested that the record industry let Apple do this. It's my opinion that they decided, well, we're never going to get any money out of all those pirated songs people downloaded. So maybe we'll get $25. We'll get a little something. And I'm sure this was one of the conditions that they gave Apple. Every single song that you use iTunes Match for is stamped with your name and an email address. So it's watermarked. And that is what I'm sure the music industry wanted, because if you did then share it on a piracy site, they could track it right to you. They say, oh, that's Ian's music. See, it's got his name in it. So I think that, though, on balance, that's fine, right? I mean, we're not encouraging. I don't want to encourage piracy, but I don't want copy protection. So I think that that's a fair trade, and I think $25, boy, what a good deal. You pay it yearly, but once you do it once, all of the songs that you've matched in iTunes Match, even if they're pirated songs, low-quality songs, whatever, that's yours. They're yours. You don't have to pay any more fees for those. You own them, in effect. The only reason you continue to pay yearly is so you continue to have the iCloud features, the streaming features, all of those things. Before we started talking about home theater, by the way, in the last hour, I said I would help our caller. She was buying a new computer and a new router, configure her Wi-Fi router. And there's two things that are important now, and one of them is new. One of them is new. So we've said all along that the only thing you need to do to make a Wi-Fi wireless router secure as wired, is turn on encryption using WPA2. Turn that on. It'll require a password on all the devices you use to log into the Wi-Fi only once, and from then on, nobody can snoop, nobody can get on your network. It's really effective. There are some other things you might want to do for security purposes, and I'll tell you what those are. One is change the name and password on your router. Turn off WAN administration. That's the ability to access the router from outside to change settings. You don't want that. So change that login name and password from the default admin, or whatever it is, to something that you'll remember. Write it down or whatever. You don't have to change the SSID. That's the name that's being broadcast around, but I would. I'd make it something that you can remember, that's unique to you, so you know instead of logging into Linksys, you're logging into your router. Don't use your name and address, though. You don't want to identify where it's coming from. That's just no reason to broadcast that. Just, use constellations or something. Use something you'll remember. And then this is new, and this is important. You'll see the news stories from the past week talking about how something called WPS was cracked. This was a system that a lot of wireless routers put in to make it easy to configure them. A little too easy. It turns out that it made it very easy to crack into these routers, even when you have WPA turned on. So disable Wi-Fi protected setup, WPS. Just disable that. You don't need it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Is this Alan Parsons? Is that why you're playing this? What is this?
It is. Children of the Moon.
I recognize he had a unique sound because he was an engineer, studio engineer. We'll be interviewing. I am so excited. Scott told us this last hour. We'll be interviewing Alan Parsons on our CES coverage in the Home Theater Geeks podcast. But I'll take that interview and we'll put it on the show in a couple of weeks. Of course, he had the Alan Parsons Project, which was made famous by Austin Powers. And then prior to that, though, he was a studio engineer, and that's what I really want to talk to him about. He engineered Dark Side of the Moon, the Pink Floyd classic, and he even worked at Abbey Road when the Beatles were there. So Alan Parsons, in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to ask him about how, but here's a guy who has watched the technology of record making change so dramatically in 50 years. I mean, 100%. Can't wait to see what his perspective is on all of that. I gather he's still pretty excited about the whole thing. That's why he's at CES. Eric is in Encino, our next caller. Hi, Eric. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I press the button. It says online, but I don't hear anything. Kyle, is there something I'm doing wrong? Oh,
Nope,
I guess he was embarrassed. I said his name out loud. Matt in Escondido, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There's something wrong. Hey, Matt.
Hey, yeah, Leo. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Happy New Year. Hey, listen, there's no need to be a cranky old tech guy on New Year's Day.
I'll be cheerful.
Make that a New Year's resolution.
I should. So are you a fan of 3D movies, Matt?
From years and years ago. I saw Captain EO at Disneyland.
I remember that. Yeah, with Michael Jackson. That was actually pretty cool.
It was amazing.
That was neat because, and I didn't mind the 3D there because it was all about the special effects. It wasn't trying to, well, it was a little bit of a story, but it was really about the spectacular. My problem is a movie with a great story, a beautiful movie like Hugo, based on a wonderful book called The Inventions of Hugo Cabret. Just a wonderful a story, didn't need the 3D, and it just, it was a children's book, and it's gorgeous, and it didn't need the effects, and it was distracting, and I didn't understand the point, especially from a great filmmaker like Martin Scorsese, but I guess,
well, a lot of it's eye candy, too.
It's eye candy. It's eye candy.
Yeah. First of all, I want to tell you that my mom wanted me to mention to you that you have the most smooth and soothing voice of anybody on KFI.
Thank you. I put her to sleep every week.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, and I love it when you make Bill Handel frustrated.
Poor Bill. Bill is the morning guy on KFI. Every Friday I join him around 7:45, and he's not exactly a technophile. He's kind of He's kind of a Luddite, but he loves, he wants to get this stuff. So I tell him what to get. He gets it, can't figure it out, and gets mad at me.
There you go, and it's always entertaining.
It is. Bill is one of the great talents in radio, I'll tell you.
I met him last year,
Yeah, he's a nice guy, contrary to his public persona.
Oh, contrary to what they say.
He's actually quite a nice guy. No, he's been very kind to me, and KFI is our mothership in Los Angeles, and I was just saying, I'm celebrating my 8th year on KFI now, which is, for radio, it's a long time.
Yeah, that is, but not relative to your 20 years, though.
Oh, I've been in radio for 35 years. I hate to say it.
Years.
Yeah, I'm an old man. That's why I'm cranky, Matt. What can I do for you?
Start that resolution.
All right, I'm going to start being the nice tech guy.
Anyway, I had this issue, Merry Christmas to me, on Christmas morning. This computer contracted this really horrible, frustrating virus worm.
I'm so sorry.
Security Shield.
Oh, yeah.
They call it a rogue AV, a rogue antivirus.
Well, that's an interesting, I mean,
that's what they told me when I was calling a number of places to see if they could get rid of the darn thing.
The problem is that it's not quite fair. Well, look, it's malware. Anything that gets on your system that you don't want, that you can't get rid of, is malware. To say it's a rogue AV implies that it somehow has some antivirus capabilities. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's a virus.
Yeah, it really irritated me. So I get this, though. I called about 3 or 4 places, and they were really familiar with it. Some of them said they have 3 or 4 computers sitting there with it on there they're waiting to fix, and they quoted me $130, $140, $150. But I had the bright idea of going over to the library the other day and printing out all these instructions here on how to get rid of it. And I went in there to the directory, and I deleted that application file, and now everything's fine.
Yeah, well, maybe. So let me explain. Yeah, it could be. I mean, you saved $150 anyway. So here, let's talk about what's going on. Security Shield is a class of malware that really is a blackmail program. So it poses as security-ware. That's why I don't like this rogue antivirus label, because it implies it is somehow an antivirus. It's not. It poses as security software, and probably got you to install it by saying, hey, you've got a virus on your system. We can get rid of it. So job one, do not download and install programs unless you are absolutely sure you know what it is. You got it because you bought it. You said, oh, yeah, well, I guess I do have a virus. Let's install Security Shield. Well, you probably didn't have a virus until you installed Security Shield, then you did. It also is a blackmail program because what it does is it locks down your system. It actually prevents you from running programs until you pay them money. Oh, that's nice. Nice people. So, and by the way, if you've given them your credit card to buy it, well, you got a real problem because you've given some very nasty people a credit card number. So even if you were able to remove it, and by the way, I'm not convinced you have, you may still have problems because you had to buy something. Removing the program probably does not get rid of it unless most malware is smarter than that. The deal with malware is there's two kinds. There's the kind that doesn't want you to know it's there and the kind that does. You got at least one that wants you to know it's there, this security shield. It's announcing it's there and saying, give me money. But it may have also installed, or others may have also installed software that doesn't announce itself. See, you're valuable to companies, I shouldn't say companies, you're valuable to bad guys because you're online and you have a computer. If they can get on your system, they can take control of it without your knowledge and sell your resources to the highest bidder, either as a spam forwarding machine or as an attack machine. And if that's the case, they don't want you to know they're there. They don't want you to remove them, and they'll do everything they can to keep you from doing so and stay on your system as long as possible, because as long as they're controlling your system, you can continue to use it. It'll appear completely normal, but they've got access to your system. They may even, and this is the worst case scenario, put a keystroke logger on there that's keeping track of all the things you do and recording passwords and so forth. So you may be sailing along. Hey, I got rid of Security Shield. Aren't I smart? I saved $150. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm the king. And all this time they're logging all the passwords and credit card numbers and everything. So what do you do? Well, let's talk about it when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And, disinfecting your computer in a little bit. It's a story that I have to do every show. Just once. Only do it once. But I will we'll talk about that in just a little bit. The bottom line for our caller is you can't be sure you've removed it. Once your system's compromised, as it has been, really the only sure solution, every security expert will tell you, is to erase the whole darn thing and start from a known good source. And I'll give you some hints about how to do that in a little bit. But right now, we got to talk to our good friend, our digital photography expert, Chris Marquardt. Happy New Year, Chris Marquardt.
Happy New Year, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's great to see you. You got a little Christmas, little Tannenbaum in the background there.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Chris is calling from Tübingen, Germany. Via
actually,
Skype.
Hanover, Germany.
Oh, he's in Hanover today. All right.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Chris
Still
Marquardt.
the holidays here, you know.
Yeah, of course. It's New Year's Day. No, I was reading, and you'll have to confirm or deny, that the Germans watch an English television show every New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Dinner for One.
Dinner for One.
Everywhere, and I stopped watching it years ago. But
so that's true.
I find it funny. It is true. It is. I think there were at least 10 different stations playing it at different times during the evening.
Now, it's only 11 minutes long. It's a silly skit.
Yeah.
Very, very, very British, which ironically is never aired in Britain. BBC has never aired it.
The Brits find it kind of boring, and I think I don't know for what reason, but for some reason it kind of snaps in really well with the German
They love
humor.
it. Well, and it's one of those things that the more, it isn't that funny the first time through. But after you've been seeing it for 30 years...
Alcohol helps, too.
There's considerable alcohol consumption. Okay, well, I'm glad to get the confirmation. It is, in fact, a German tradition. It's called... You can find it on YouTube if you want to see it. Dinner for One. It's,
with Freddie Frinton, I think.
Yeah, the Freddie Frinton. Now, let's move on.
Please, let's talk photography.
Chris is the host of a great photography podcast called Tips from the Top Floor. You can find that at tfttf.com. But, if you go to his website, chrismarquardt.com, you'll find that, all his workshops, and lots of great pictures. And he does something fun. Besides talking about digital photography on the show, every month we give you an assignment to get you out there taking pictures. It's not a contest. There's no prizes, but we just want you to take pictures. And so each month we'll give you an assignment. This month was a good assignment. The word ice was so just illustrate the word ice. And did we get some submissions, Chris?
Oh yes, we got I think around 40, and it's funny because I was thinking that people would be submitting all sorts of things around ice. And we only got one ice cream submission. Only one of them was about ice cream. The rest was literally about snow and ice cubes and these kind of things. But lots of great pictures again. So I've picked 3 of them, and let's just have a quick look at them.
All right.
The first one is by Soren Hedberg, Trumpeter Swans.
This is a beautiful image, and it's a panorama, or at least it's widescreen, huh?
Yeah, I chose it for 2 reasons. First is that it leaves the trend, the old path of having the 2:3 or 4:3 resolution aspect ratio, where pictures always have that certain size when they come out of your camera, and a lot of people don't really think about maybe changing that crop, maybe making them a bit more either higher or wider than usual.
You know, it all comes from the fact that for a long time you had to print your picture to see it, and there were certain, you know, kinds of paper. You could have 5x7, 4x6. I mean, there were only a few choices, but because it's digital and we're looking at a screen, you can do whatever you want now.
True.
And so this one, I don't know if it's 16:9, or it looks like it's even wider. It's
I don't know. I think Soren probably just cropped it the way it felt right, and that's what I do a lot of times. I look at a picture and I might crop to take something out that is distracting, or I might crop to emphasize something. Here, for example, that dark line that goes through the picture, the water line where the swans are on. I mean, we have to explain what it is. It's a lake with swans on. There's snow. There's ice on the lake. So that
and it's melted in just a strip right through the lower third of the screen, and that's where the swans are swimming. The swans are on the right, and then there's a strip of land on the left. It's the composition. I'm sure that's why you picked this. Is beautiful.
The horizontal strip is nicely emphasized by the crop, and then those white swans in front of that dark strip of water, they pop out really nicely. So there's a lot of contrast between the subject and the background, and that makes those swans really stand out. It helps them be the center of attention in the image. So that's why I chose it.
If you want to see these pictures, by the way, there are a couple of ways you can do it. We have a Tech Guy group on Yahoo's Flickr, so just log on to flickr.com and search for, in the groups section, Tech Guy. You'll find all of the submissions there. But we'll also put links to all 3 of the pictures we're talking about today in our show notes at techguylabs.com. In fact, let me forward those links along to James, and he'll put them in there right now. So that's a beautiful picture. I agree with you, and I think it is interesting because it's such a wide-angle shot.
Right. Now, the other picture, the next picture, number 2, is by Nels Chick, and I looked at this, and then I came back to it after looking through all the pictures for several reasons. First of all, it's a very simplified picture. It shows trees in the foreground that are bright, that are, I think they're frosty, I guess. And that's the title of the picture too, Frosty Trees. And then in the background there are darker trees, and the photographer made the choice to make this a black and white picture, to really reduce the picture down to what it's about. It's about the ice, which stands out really nice. You can see those trees, and they are obviously frosty. And then there's this black backdrop, which again adds contrast to the foreground, so it helps bring that out. And it's just a very basic but very simple and elegant picture. So black and white really suits that well.
We're seeing more and more. This is another example of how digital photography's changed us a little bit. You know, when I was a film photographer, I liked to shoot black and white. But when you shoot black and white, that's what you get. There's no color, no chance to get color.
Well, the photo doesn't have any EXIF data. Maybe it's a film.
Maybe it was a film shot, yeah. But nowadays, when people are shooting digital, it's of course shot in color, but you have the choice. And initially, I think we were so enamored of the bright colors of digital photography, we didn't do black and white very often. I see more and more black and white, and I just love it. I think black and white is I've always loved black and white. And digital, there's no reason not to. You can do it with your software after the fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looks good.
And it's not that hard. It's not that hard. No. There are lots of black and white conversion tutorials out there, so anyone.
Do you have a program that you use when you go black and white? How do you do it?
I mostly do those conversions in Lightroom.
You just use the built-in capabilities?
Yes, but sometimes I also use like plugins by Nik Software, for example.
They have a Silverfax.
Silverfax is really good. Yeah.
So Lightroom is about $300, but if you're serious about photography, it's a wonderful program to have, Mac or PC. Apple has an aperture program, which is also very good. And then you can add plugins, and NIK software makes a black and white conversion.
German company, by the way.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
Didn't know that. They make a black and white conversion program called Silver EFX, or is it Silver F?
I think.
Yeah, it's EFEX. It's so good, and that'll set you back another $100-some bucks. But boy, wonderful stuff.
You can get really good results using those. Yeah.
Picture number 3.
Picture number 3 by James Orlovsky, and it's again ice. The theme is ice, and he took a very shallow depth of field picture with just something in focus, and it's the tip of his windshield wipers of his car. They're kind of flipped away off the screen, so they stick out towards the camera, and there's
I just love it.
Beautiful light in the background.
Chris, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll come up with a new assignment for everybody, a chance to get out and take some more pictures. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. All right, that sounds like a duck call, but I think it's a camera winding. Is there
I had to wind it 3 times.
Is there a song that's coming up here, or is that it? That's it.
Just me winding my disposable camera.
That was a musical interlude provided by Kyle Benham, our musical director. He's titled it "Winding My Disposable Camera, Opus 1." Actually, and there's a reason we were doing that, because we just got a disposable camera. Chris Marquardt, our digital photo expert from chrismarquardt.com, had signed us up for the disposable camera project. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. disposablememoryproject.org, and I got the camera, Chris.
Finally, it made its way over, and so what you're supposed to do now is take a picture, maybe a couple of pictures, and give it to someone. It has instructions, so everyone who has the camera can register it, so people can follow the camera online. And then at the end, when the camera makes its way back to Britain, to the project owner or project founder, they will develop it and they will put those pictures online. So you will be able to then see the entire journey of the camera.
Basically. So I'll take 2 pictures. I've registered it on their website. I'll take 2 pictures, and then I will give it to somebody. We get people visiting. Yesterday we had somebody visiting from Australia. We get people visiting from all over the world.
Very cool.
I'll get somebody who's far, far away. I'll give it to them. We'll see how far this camera can go. How fun. How fun.
Very, very fun. I like that.
So we've completed our review of 3 great pictures representing the ICE assignment. And, thank you for all of the submissions. That's wonderful. Let's do a new assignment. Do you have one for us?
Absolutely. I have a new assignment. And again, one of the things about this that I like is that it can be interpreted in different ways. The assignment this time is footprint.
Footprint.
Footprint. And that can be, there are like literally at least 5 different ways that you might be able to interpret that.
Good, I like it. So here's how you play. You need a Flickr account. That's free. If you have a Yahoo account, you already have one. Flickr is Flickr without the E, FLICKR.com. Go there at the top. Once you log into your account, at the top of the page, you'll see a groups menu. Search for Tech Guy, 2 words. That's our group. Orbit Gal, our moderator, will welcome you in. Join the group. In fact, you'll see right there on the front, Orbit Gal is going to put the rules for the contest. You can submit up to, it's not a contest, for the assignment. You can submit up to 1 picture a week. Use the tag footprint so that we know that's what you're submitting it to. And in about a month, we usually give you a month to do this. Chris will come back and we'll review some of the pictures and talk about them. So that's fun. Footprint. Yep. Chris Marquardt is at chrismarquardt.com. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Leo. Have a happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We look forward to lots more from you in the year 2012. Take care.
All right.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I did promise I would tell you. As one of my prayers for 2012 is that we don't get any more malware. I don't think that's going to come true, is it? Yeah. Well, so the problem is once you get stuff on your system, every security expert will tell you this. There are ways and ways, and our caller, went online and found a way to disinfect his system. But once your system has been compromised, you don't know what the bad guy has done. And there may well be other beasties on your system that you just can't see. They're hidden away. They don't want you to see them. They don't want you to get rid of them. And it's gotten more and more difficult to just run a disinfecting program. There are great ones like Malware Bytes, but it's no guarantee that you're clean. So you can try it, and you know, if we bring it to a shop and you give them $150, which is actually not a bad price because it's going to be a few hours of work, they will do that. They'll run Malware Bytes. They'll run other disinfectant programs. Then they'll run an antivirus or two against your system. And if it comes up clean, they'll say, see, we've fixed it. And, you know, 90%, maybe they have. But there's still that 10% risk that, in fact, you're operating an infected system and will never know. And during the operation, not only are you being a bad person on the internet because your system is being used to spread spam or attack other systems, you may also be giving private information out to a hacker. Your credit card numbers, your logins, your passwords. I don't think it's worth the risk. So the best thing to do, it's what every expert says, is start over. Back up your data only, erase the drive, and reinstall your operating system from a known good source. Usually it'll be a DVD or something that can't be modified. Then scan it, restore your software, run all the updates so you have every patch, Windows patch on there. That's very important. And then next time somebody says, you have a virus, download our free scanner, don't. Saeed from Encino, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Saeed.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
And Happy New Year to you, too.
Happy New Year.
I have a question. I got a lot of video that I was converting. I'm involved with one of the community here in California. Mm-hmm. And when I convert those files, they're losing their format. They're not as sharp as what I have on the video camcorder.
Right.
So do you recommend any software that I can buy or do something? Because now I'm using the Movie Maker and Nero and some other.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Windows Movie Maker or that. There's a couple of things going on here, Said. For one thing, it looks better in the camera because you're looking at a small LCD. So, you know, the rule of thumb is the smaller the screen, the better the image will look because you don't see the defects. So just because it looks good on the camera's LCD, nice and sharp, doesn't mean it is sharp. It means you're looking at it on a small screen. So connect your camera to your computer and play it back through your computer and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, that's what it looks like. It's not being modified. When you do import it, you should not. You may, in some cases, in fact, most cases nowadays, you may have to transcode it. That is, change the format of it as you import it. You shouldn't be lowering the quality doing that. So make sure that your settings, when you are importing, are for the maximum quality. That way, it won't degrade the image as you import it. But Windows Movie Maker, Nero, I happen to like Pinnacle Systems Studio. That's an excellent program. Sony makes a thing called Vegas Video. That's fantastic. And the one I generally recommend if you want to spend a little money is Adobe Premiere Elements. It's under $100. Premiere Elements. It also is a very good program. It will allow you to import this in highest quality, edit it, and burn a DVD. On Windows, that's the program I recommend. But all of them should do a good job as long as you make sure that when you import that video, it's set to import maximum quality. There's a trade-off between, you know, file size and video quality, and in a lot of cases, programs will say, oh, we don't want to use up hard drive space. Use up hard drive space. It's cheap. Are you ready to go to Hawaii? Randy on the line from Kauai. Hi, Randy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, aloha and haole makahiki ho.
Aloha. I love Kauai. I wish I were there right now. Is it beautiful?
Yes, it is today. It's a beautiful day, first day of the new year.
Yeah, you get the new year last, but you get it right.
So that's how you say Happy New Year in Hawaii and all you guys.
I love it. Oh, that's great. Well, it's so nice to talk to you, Randy. What can I do for you today?
I'm in the process of redoing my website, and I added a few pages, and then with my hyperlinks, and then my hyperlinks got mixed up, and I can't get them in the right order. And I was wondering how to do that, because I'm going, you know, to insert, and then I go to.
What program are you using? What program are you using to make this website?
the 2003 publisher.
Okay. Yeah, this is a problem because you're using Publisher, and Publisher is kind of hiding what's going on. And I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. If you were just looking, and one way you can check this is to look at the raw HTML, Randy. So Publisher is showing you what we call a WYSIWYG display, like a word processor. What you see is what you get. But what you want to see is what is it doing underneath that display. So you're making your website, you've got the links, they're not working. View source. I'm not sure what it's called in Publisher, but view the HTML and see what that link is. Now, there's a couple of problems that can happen. One is that when you're on your computer and you're making a link, it may make a link to a local file that's on your hard drive, and you upload that file then to the internet. Well, that internet doesn't have access to your hard drive. So those links may be broken. The only way to diagnose it, though, is to look at the HTML code that Publisher is creating. I know the whole reason you use Publisher is so you wouldn't have to do this, right? But you do, because it's doing something wrong. It's creating code that is not usable, and that's something you need to fix. I can't give you much more help than that, only because I'm not really sure what Publisher is doing. It can do a lot of different things. It's one of the reasons I don't generally recommend designing web pages this way anymore. I'll talk about my favorite way to do web pages in just a bit. And haole makahiki ho to you too. Did I say that right? Thank you, Randy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. The Tech Guy, the first Tech Guy Show 2012. So good to see you. Thank you for joining me. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. And we're taking your calls, answering your questions, talking about tech in the new year. I have to thank our chat room, Stephen3X in our chat room, who just sent me a link to an HDMI cable. You know, that's the digital cable that you use to connect your Blu-ray player or maybe your high-def cable box to your television set. And, you know, I've said before that you probably don't need to spend too much money on an HDMI cable. Monoprice.com sells them for $2, $3. And that's more than adequate. Because with, I don't know about analog cables, but with digital cables, there's no magic. It either works or it doesn't. So Steven sent me this Amazon listing for a AudioQuest Diamond HDMI cable. It's 3 feet long, so it's not even very long cable, which is good because shorter cables are better. And it's a mere $1,094. There's only 5 left in stock, so somebody's buying these things. Unless they only made 5, figuring there weren't that many suckers in the world. Now, this is a cable that is no better than a $3 cable selling for over $1,000. Yeah, boy. But the best part of this, I'll put a link in the show notes. James, if you'd put that in the show notes at techguylabs.com, because I want people not just to see the listing, but to read the reviews on Amazon.com because they're hysterical. People obviously recognize what a silly product this is, and they're having so much fun laughing at this. Yeah, it's an interesting price. It's not just over $1,000. It's $1,094.75. I guess that's because 75 cents is what it cost them to make the cable. They want to recover that cost. And then the profit is $1,094. That's probably what it is. Another story, a little less hysterical, a little more serious and good. In about an hour, NASA will have a big celebration because Grail B will go into lunar orbit. At about 5 minutes after the hour next hour, 5:05 Eastern, New Year's Day, Grail B is one of 2 satellites that NASA's putting in orbit around the moon. Grail A got there yesterday at that time. It's a low orbit, 56-mile orbit. Actually, 56 miles by 5,197 miles, so I guess it's an elliptical orbit. It's 11-hour orbit. And why are they doing 2 satellites in this kind of locked-in orbit? Well, they'll be able to analyze the moon's gravity field with some very sophisticated instruments. Radio signals propagating through the 2 different satellites. And then they'll send that information back to the Earth. So it's kind of like a triangle. The 2 satellites talking to each other and then back to the Earth. We'll get the most accurate gravity map of the moon ever made. So see, we're still doing some big space science out there, which I think is great. By studying the lunar gravity map, we'll learn things about the density of the moon, what's in its core, and it'll tell us a lot about other rocky planets. In fact, I think that do they still believe, John, that the moon was ripped from the Earth by a passing comet or some sort of body that gravitationally? It's not currently in favor of that theory? Right. We don't know where the moon came from. We might have captured it. Might have captured it, or it might have come from the Earth. If it came from the Earth, then it would be very interesting to see what's in there. Even not, if not. I love it. This big science. So I guess you could watch that on NASA TV if there's anything to see. By March 2012, they'll begin their 82-day science phase. They'll be in a near-polar, near-circular orbit with a very low altitude of 34 miles. They're just skimming the surface. Wow. Pretty cool. Love that stuff. Back to the phones we go. 8888 Ask Leo. I did Randy and Kauai. Just to follow up for you, Randy, if you're still using Publisher, especially a 9-year-old version of Microsoft Publisher, it's not the best way to make a website. It's probably one of the easier ways. You do it as if it were a word processing document, and then you publish it out as HTML. You can do that with Microsoft Word, too. In no case do you get a well-done site, but it's easy. There's kind of a trade-off there. Nowadays, I don't think anybody really does web pages, static web pages like that, very, very often. If you have a website, the more commonly done thing, and certainly what we do on our web pages at techguylabs.com, on my blog, I use WordPress at leoville.com. I take a look at something like WordPress. WordPress is what we call a content management system. It's software that runs on the web server, not on your computer, but on the web server. And it uses style sheets, templates for the design. So, You don't have to do this yourself. You can use canned designs or even hire somebody to do it. But once the design is done, you don't mess with the design ever again. You then upload the content using the built-in web forms, or you could use software. WordPress is so commonly used. There's lots of programs, and Microsoft makes a very good one for free, part of Windows Live Essentials. That will write to it's a really great way to go. It's kind of like Publisher in the sense that you'll be using a desktop application that looks a lot like a word processor. You'll highlight links and you'll highlight text to make bold. You'll drag and drop images into it and all that stuff, and then it does all the work of making it look good. It's called Windows Live Writer. It's free from get.live.com if you're using Windows. But in order for that to work, you need to be running a content management system on your server like WordPress. You can go to WordPress.com, do it for free. Squarespace is another good one. All of these, the design. Once you've done the design, you don't touch the design anymore. You just upload your articles. Makes it very easy. And because you're using Windows Live Writer, for instance, then it's kind of like using Publisher, but it's much more reliable, much more predictable, the results. So that's what and it's free. That's what I would recommend. So Randy, might be time to move that website off of whatever system you're using. Move it to WordPress.com. That's free. Use Windows Live Writer from get.live.com. That's free. Your experience, once you got it set up, will be very similar in terms of how you publish, but it'll be much, much easier, and everything will work a lot better. 2003, the web has changed a lot since 2003. You might have noticed. Go look at some old websites from 2003. It was a very different place. Eric is in Encino, California, our next caller. Hi, Eric. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I just wanted to call. I wanted to thank you because I, largely thanks to you, wrote an Android app.
All
using
right.
Google's. Yeah. I've been working on it since April, and actually blew like 5 months doing it wrong. Figured out I had made myself a big box of puzzle pieces and started over.
Well, you know, don't knock yourself, because I would say that that's an experience every single programmer has had, and it is not at all unusual that the first version of any program just gets tossed, and all the things you learned doing that make that second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth version a whole lot better. So that is not at all unusual, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what that book was that you recommended to the kid, how to learn programming, or...
Yeah. Now, this will take you back to ground zero. It's not going to be immediately useful for designing, say, a Java program for Android, but it really will teach you what programming is all about. Let's take a break, and I'll tell you about it when I come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, it's not. Is it time for me to talk? I can never tell. Yes, it is. I'm a satellite of geekiness. At 8888 Ask Leo. We were talking with Eric from Encino, writing his first program. Let me, before I give you the name of the book and talk a little bit about learning programming, tell me about your program. What is it for? What does it do?
Yeah, it's actually a one-of-a-kind that helps you with illustrations and step-by-step over-explanations. I have a predilection for how to maintain your treadmill, what not to do, what to do.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
Are you charging for it, or are you giving it away? Or
there's a free one that has a bunch of tips that will help you avoid breakdowns, and that there's also a paid one that is a diagnostic app, so that if you have a problem, or they basically need maintenance every year, and it shows you how to do that yourself.
Well, I'm gonna have to get it. What's the name of the program?
I actually emailed you a copy of it, but yeah, it's called Treadmill Tester and Treadmill Tips, and you're actually in the dedication.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you saved me. I would listen to you rather than listen to the Real Housewives of any city when my wife would put that on. Yeah, I hearken back to those kinder, gentler days of the Kardashians. They were
reality TV is really out of control, isn't it? It's just amazing.
Oh.
So, Eric, let me talk about programming, and this is not just for you, but for any kid, for instance, who is interested in this. I think most of the time we don't learn programming properly, and it can get programmers in trouble. Most of the programmers working today weren't taught formally, and so sometimes it's one of the reasons you see so many security flaws, frankly, in software these days. They're often untrained. So, there are, I think, proper ways to learn this, and it's never too late to go back and learn it. I am not a professional programmer. I do it as a hobby, and I love it. But I have listened to professional programmers who have told me this again and again. And the book I've recommended is pretty old. It's 9 years old, but the fundamentals don't change. And the thing that this book is about and the thing they'll say in the introduction is, people often think computer programming is about instructing the computer to do something. It isn't. It's a programming language is a syntax for describing a solution to a problem, or it's a way of describing an operation. It isn't about the computer. And so the book I do recommend it. The nice thing about this is completely free. You can get it online. It's called How to Design Programs. It was used for years as the beginning programming text at MIT and Rice universities, because unfortunately MIT has moved away from this to teaching languages that are more suitable for pre-professionals, Java particularly, the language you're using. They don't use this anymore. I think Rice might still, but I think that the fundamentals have not changed. It's online at HTDP, How to Design Programs, htdp.org, and it will teach you a programming language called Lisp, which you will never use in production. But it's a good language to learn and understand. And the best programmer, I mean, truly, the most brilliant programmers almost universally started with Lisp. Not because they're going to use it, but because it teaches you this notion of a syntax for describing problems and solutions. It's a different way to think about it.
I could ask you questions for hours, but if I could just, is it worthwhile for me to learn programming, or should I hire somebody? That was one of the other questions.
Well, you know, most of the time, and well, it's just it more is what your inclination is. Programming is not merely a professional skill; it's a wonderful hobby, and that's how I treat it. I'm never going to be a good programmer or a professional programmer. I don't have the patience, I don't have the concentration, and I'm way too old. But I love doing it. In fact, I wish I had more time to do it because it's like playing chess or gardening. It's a hobby. It's something that engages your mind. It gives you a way to think of problems and solve them. And it's kind of a fun because if you're into computers, it allows you to make your computer do stuff.
Right,
that's kind of fun, too.
Exactly.
So if you're interested, I would do it. I mean, read this book. It's fun. It'll take you a year to go through it, and do it for fun. If your goal is, I just want to sell a program, often it's better just to hire somebody. Especially since there are lots of contract programmers now, especially from Asia and not just Asia, but some of the Russians. So there's some really good, well-trained programmers from Eastern Europe who are underemployed. They're very inexpensive.
Yeah, as a specialist myself, I'm kind of leaning towards hiring somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Exactly. You wouldn't learn heart surgery just as a hobby and then engage in it, but you might be interested in medicine. So it really is about what you're interested in. It's like the last caller. Some people want to learn how to do websites, because they're interested. And if you do, that's great. But if what you want to do is have a website, you don't need to be a website design and creation expert to just have a website. There's plenty of tools out there for you to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to ask you, too, I have treadmilltricorder.com, and I wanted to use that, but I'm certain there's legal problems with it, or how does that work?
Well, yeah, I don't know. What you'll need to do is see who owns the trademark tricorder. If Paramount owns it, the folks who did Star Trek, I would be willing to guess they enforce it because they're notorious for that.
Yeah.
So I'd be a little careful, but you could do a trademark search at uspto.org, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. They have a trademark search, and if you search for tricorder, you can see who owns that trademark. One of the things, now I'm not a lawyer, so you should probably seek legal counsel from somebody who's not a hobbyist. But one of the things I do know about a trademark is that the trademark is always in a specific realm. So it may be that because you're using the word in a context that's, well, I think Paramount's probably going to go after you anyway. That would be my guess. Good luck. I love the name. Maybe something like tricorder, but not. Vince in Rolling Meadows, Illinois. Hi, Vince. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Happy New Year, Leo.
Happy New Year.
First-time caller, long-time listener.
Thank you.
Ever since the screensaver days.
Ah, yes. It's hard to believe the screensavers now. Tech TV was started in 1998, 14 years ago, and ended, at least for me, in 2004, 8 years ago. So, we're getting to the point now where it's a dim memory for a lot of people. Well, actually, it's worse than that. We're getting to the point now where I'm starting to run into people. People come visit the studio, adult men with facial hair and hats who will say, I grew up watching the screensavers, and it's just depressing.
Right. Anyways, the question I have is, and I've never heard anyone talk about this, but is it possible to have a split screen on the iPad too? Because I find that I'm having to go back and forth between two screens.
No, you can't. Apple won't let you. Sorry. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's see. So I got cut off a little bit, but Vince said, is there any way to do dual screens on an iPad? No, because the iPad is not your computer. It's Steve Jobs' computer. Very important to understand. Some people who've had computer experience come to the iPad thinking you can customize it in some way. No. There no. Sorry. The whole idea of the iPad is you do it our way. And in fact, of course, somebody could write software, an app for the iPad that would split screens and give you all those capabilities, and Apple will not approve it. Apple has been very clear, and they have rejected all attempts to modify the user interface of the iPad. They said this is how it is. Now, you don't have to like it. You don't have to buy an iPad, but don't expect to be able to take the iPad and modify it to suit. It is what it is. And what it is pretty good, but it is not, in fact, it's great, but it is not, customizable in that way. So if you want a split screen, get a computer, basically. And don't get mad at me because I didn't make up the rules. It's Apple. That's their rule. And you understand why they do that. They want to make it easy to use. They don't want it to be confusing. They don't want it. It isn't a full-blown computer. They're not trying to make the distinction so that they'll sell computers. Not at all. I don't believe so. They sell plenty of iPads. They're doing just great, and plenty of computers. They make the distinction because they want a device that anybody can use. It's not designed for computer users. It's designed for normal people. Scott in Reseda, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah, good morning.
Afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you. My question is I'm using a laptop computer that my roommates let me use, and it's currently using Internet Explorer 7. And when I open up my Yahoo Mail account, sometimes I get a window that is suggesting that I upgrade to Internet Explorer, I think 8 or 9.
Yeah, Microsoft's very aggressive about getting people to upgrade. 7's fine. Anything pre-7 is bad. Microsoft really was worried about people who still use Internet Explorer 5.5 and 6 because of the security issues. Nevertheless, they do want you to upgrade. In fact, going forward, you won't get these messages anymore. They'll just upgrade you. That's how Firefox and Chrome work. They don't care about, they don't ask you. They just do it. And there's a good reason. This is your portal to the Internet, and this is the #1 way viruses and malware get into your computer. So these upgrades are fairly important. If you want to stay secure, I would do it.
Okay, because my roommate was saying that Internet 8 or 9 is bad. It doesn't work correctly. It has problems.
That may be true. 9 especially isn't out yet. It's in beta, so... 8 is the current version. And it is your roommate's computer, so your roommate gets to decide. But the issue is often that when you upgrade, and this is why people still use Internet Explorer 5.5, because the later versions don't work with their company intranet. That's most often the case. So yeah, it may be that some site. Now, why anyone would make a site that doesn't? Oh, wait a minute, my site doesn't work with IE9. Never mind. Normally, you want a site to work with the current version of Internet Explorer because still a vast number of people are using it. Now, Scott, I don't like Internet Explorer. I don't use it. Ask your roommate if you can use Chrome instead from Google. It's free, google.com/Chrome. Your roommate wants to use IE7, fine. You should use Chrome. It's more secure, has Flash built in, it's faster. I just think it's a better browser. If your roommate will not upgrade and will not let you use Chrome, then continue to use IE7 and just is there a way to turn off those bug you messages from Microsoft? There may not be. Chat room, do you have any idea? Is there any way to turn off that? Do you go to Windows Update and say, don't bug me anymore? Stop bugging me. All right. Well, they're not telling me. I think there is, though. I think there is. Stan in Woodland Hills, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Stan.
Good afternoon, Leo, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Leo, we spoke a while back about the DTV Cliff Effect Assistance Act for antenna TV.
Yeah.
Which never got through Congress, unfortunately. And by the way, both in the House and in the Senate, they came out of Maine. Olympia Snow.
Oh, yeah.
and so on. But it didn't make it through the Energy and Commerce.
Well, it's a small group of people who, like you, Stan, are stuck with an unusual situation. When we made the government-mandated shift, television stations didn't want to do it, but the government, FCC, made them, from analog broadcast to digital broadcast. There were a small number of people disadvantaged by that. And people like you, Stan, who were really on the edge of the reception zone. Now, on analog, you can be right at the edge of the reception zone and still get a picture. Won't be a great picture. Might be. Remember snowy pictures? Remember that? Remember ghosting on TV? You have to be of a certain age to remember that. It's gone, isn't it? We don't see that anymore. You don't see snow on the screen anymore. Why? Because all our signals are digital. Unlike analog, digital doesn't degrade gracefully. Analog, if the signal gets weak, it'll get snowy, the picture will start to look worse, but you'll still get a picture. Digital, it either works or it doesn't. So, Stan, when the FCC made these television stations move from analog to digital, there were people like you right on the fringe of the analog reception who just lost reception. Can't do it. Sorry. We don't get that far. I know Congress, and we've talked about this before, Stan, did talk about perhaps some sort of remediation for you folks, but it isn't very many people, and you don't have a big voice in Congress. There are other fish to fry. The government's running out of money, so you lose. So what's your alternative? Well, you can get a better antenna, or you can do what almost everybody else has done now. Just get a cable. That's why God made cable television. Carl in Texas, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Leo. I have a small problem with my radio in my vehicle.
Yeah.
It sounds like the radio station is not quite dialed in. And I know that's not the problem because sometimes that it comes in very clear.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you knew, is there an amplifier or something that I can install on the radio to boost the signal?
So are you in the country or in the city? Is it wide open sky, or are you are you in the canyons of Dallas there? Where?
No, I live in East Texas. A lot of trees.
A lot of trees. Trees usually don't harm a signal, but, it sounds like you're kind of like Stan, where you're on the edge of the signal. So the signal may come and go due to interference from buildings, all sorts of weird stuff. Could be power lines. There's all sorts of things that can happen to have that signal come and go. I would, C. Crane, ccradio.com. If anybody makes an amplifier, they would. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
When you're down on your knees with nothing.
Leo, you there?
Won't you try digging a little deeper in that well.
New Year's Day 2012.
Hey, Leo, I don't have you on yet. Hey,
32.
No, okay, thank you. You're on.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. New Year's Day 2012. Well. Kyle Benham, our musical director, makes a playlist of all the songs he plays during the show, puts it on his Google Plus account, Kyle Benham, Benham, or you can get it on our website, techguylabs.com. Epi in Palm Springs, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Epi.
Hi, Leo. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, I got a wonderful Christmas gift that I now hate.
Oh, no. What is it? It's probably some piece of technology, right?
Yes, I got a new MacBook Pro, and because my wife felt sorry for me running around with an 8-year-old Dell laptop.
Well, why do you hate it?
Because I was a PC man, and now I feel like I'm in a foreign country asking everybody how to use a bathroom.
Yeah, no, I know. There's some things. I'll tell you the 3 big ones. Maybe if you get over this, you can survive. Okay. Number 1, on the Macintosh, it's not control panels, it's system preferences. And it's not the start menu at the bottom, it's the Apple at the top. And that's the first thing you should know. But once you get to the system preferences, it actually looks very much like the control panel. It's all the same stuff. Mouse, keyboard, accessibility, power savings, all of that same stuff there. So that's one. Two, and this is probably the biggest one, is unlike Microsoft, where every application has its own window and the menu for that application is at the top of that window, which makes sense. You just move your mouse to the top of the window you're in, and there's the menu. Apple doesn't put menus in the windows. It only has one spot for a menu, and it's at the top of the screen. And the argument is that if it's always in the same place, so your mouse always moves the same place to get to the menu. In fact, the menu structures that Apple created for the first Macintosh, File, Edit, and then subsequent menus, have been duplicated by Windows. So, Microsoft was very much influenced by the way Apple set up its GUI, but that is a big difference. And the final one is just kind of a small difference, is that the window sizing buttons are on the upper left on the Mac, and they're on the upper right on the Windows, and they're a little bit different.
That I discovered right away with the sizing.
Well, now what else is driving you crazy? Because to be honest, to me they feel very similar. I use both all the time.
Well, as a hobby, I started collecting funny videos that I find around on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably have, 1,000 of them. And I save them to an external hard drive, just a little terabyte hard drive I run around with. That way I can take it home.
Fun, yeah.
On the Mac, I can't download the video. And when I do download a video, I don't want it to go onto the hard drive. I want it to go to my external. But it doesn't go to the external.
How on Windows, how do you download it? You just right-click the video and download it?
Exactly. Or I go save as or save to.
So these are not Flash videos?
No.
And on the Mac, you should be able to right-click, but what's different is the browser. So it's just different. It's a different syntax between Safari and Internet Explorer. Had you used, for instance, Chrome on Windows, it would be exactly the same on the Macintosh.
Oh.
So that's a browser thing, and it's there is still a save link as or something. I'm just not sure what the different syntax is. But if you just kind of fool around with it. Now, having said that, you should never feel like you have to use the Mac. You can always bring it back and get a Windows machine. If you hate it, nothing wrong with that. I don't need to talk you into using a Mac. I don't get a percentage from Apple, So it's a personal computer.
Right. Well, you know what I did when I was frustrated with my Windows machine was I went out and bought a book. It said Windows XP, and I was able to just find it.
So there's even more help for switchers like you. First of all, is there an Apple store near you in Palm Springs? I think there is.
Yes, there is.
They do one-on-one instructional stuff for the genius. Call the Apple store, tell them what you just told me, say, I want help switching, and they'll give you complimentary classes and that'll tell you everything and walk you through it. You say, well, how do I do this? And they say, here's how you do it. And they're great.
Oh, even if you didn't buy it there?
Yeah. Well, it all came from Apple in the long run. They don't care where you bought it.
Okay.
So that's one, and then the other, and you just say it's a gift. I don't know where she got it, but they don't care because it's an Apple store. They're owned by Apple, and then Apple has online some good switching documentation. You might want to, if you just Google a Macintosh switcher, you'll find quite a few websites and so forth. But I think the one-on-one that they do at the Apple store is really good. This is where Apple has shined or shoned. They're shining because they, for a long time they were the underdog, and I guess they still are technically the underdog, although it doesn't feel that way much anymore. And so they were very good about helping people make the switch. And I think you'll find that these people are well trained. They're very friendly, very nice. I know a lot of people, and they do it, by the way. They will do it before the store opens, which is great because you kind of get a quiet time in the morning. You can go in there, and they will spend as much time with you as you like. They're really good. So that's what I'd recommend. But again, Epi, don't feel like you have to use a Mac. They will try to keep you on the Mac, and I think in the long run, you may find you actually grow to like it. The difference is, look, the DNA is 99.9% the same on Macs and Windows. The differences are minor, I think. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I'll tell you one thing I wish the differences were still there for. You know, for a long time, you didn't have to worry about security on a Mac. Well, you do now. My solution to viruses, don't get them. Sam in Newport Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello.
Hey, Sam.
How are you?
I'm well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm a long-time listener and first-time caller. I got myself in a corner.
Okay.
I have an invention, got a patent, and someone said, well, you need a website. Okay, I said, good, I do. And they started to put something together for me and then disappeared.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in a quandary. I've got an email thing set up through the website that if somebody can find me, they can send me an email.
Are they hosting the website? Who's hosting the website?
I paid for a company called
HostDaddy.
Something like that.
HostGator, HostDaddy. So
I paid a 3-year fee because we got this name. You know, you had to go through a whole series.
So these people are your web hosts. They registered the name for you. They're the ones you need to contact and say, hey, the guy who set this up for me disappeared, but I am the owner of record. It's my credit card. I pay for it. Can you give me the password to get into this and control it?
Okay.
And they will do that.
Great.
Because you're paying for it.
Yes, I did. But I think, as I recall, the person who set this up set it up under their email.
Yeah, probably. That's called lock-in.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, but it's yours by right. If it's Host Monster or Host, go to the hosting company if you can find that information and talk to them, and they'll explain the process that you need to follow if there's a dispute. There won't be. There won't be. Hey, thanks so much, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Happy New Year.